Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome back here. It is the start of the work week. Unfortunately, Monday. I don't know, a lot of people love going to work, getting up early in the morning, going to work on a Monday. Sounds kind of fun. October 30th, 2023. It is about 12:19 p.m. here, California time. And tomorrow, Halloween. Goodness, already. I actually look forward to that. It's a fun time. I'm going to go out with the kids trick-or-treating, I think. Should be nice weather out here in Northern California. Latest activity looks like a 1.3 into the region of California. Now, we did see some moderate movement overnight here around the Jamaica area, of all places. 5.4 earthquake in the Hope Bay, Jamaica region. That is around the Caribbean plate here, just off the plate boundary. This earthquake striking, very close to the Kingston, Jamaica area, the capital there. A lot of folks did report feeling this earthquake around the mainland in this area, with a little bit of strong shaking being reported across this area. Now, just goes to show you the general folks reporting it and their location and what they felt. For the most part, some moderate to strong shaking there. Halfway Tree, St. Andrew, Jamaica. Again, this earthquake struck pretty close to the highly populated area there at Kingston. Following that movement, looks like still some continued activity here in the Puerto Rico area. Now, Jamaica, I'm kind of curious about that. I got to look up something here real quick, see when the last large earthquake struck there. Now, I wouldn't call today's earthquake a large earthquake, but they can see some. I remember looking back here historically, and we're just going to run over to Jamaica here real quick, see where we're at down here, and see what they got here for historical data. Now, I know here along the plate boundary, a little bit, you can see it there on the map, that this little boundary between the Caribbean and North American plate, they can get some large earthquakes there in that region. But specifically right here around the Jamaica area, it looks as though a little spotty, though, but it looks like there has been some large earthquake activity out there back in 1907, seen a 6.2. 1907 also seen another 6.2 within the same area here, 5.9 in 1914, 5.5, 1988, 1993. So it looks like we have had some larger quake activity out here historically, but it's been a while since we've seen any earthquake activity out here. 2020, though, here along the plate boundary, we've seen that 7.7. I remember that. Pretty big earthquake out there back in 2020. 7.1 back in 1917. And I'm sure some other larger quake activity out here up and down the Caribbean plate. So periodically, it looks like we do see some larger scale movement. Today, though, not a big one, but just a reminder that we can see some larger quakes up here now. Not 100% certain if there's enough strain up here along this area for a big quake, as far as anything above 6-pointer, but possibility, right? Looked at that historical data, and it does show a lot of older movement quakes up here, aside from that large one back in 2020. But that doesn't mean the rest of the boundary up here is not strained. 5.4 earthquake today, Jamaica area. All right, looking out across the rest of the map here, let's go ahead and check out the West Coast, see what we got for earthquake activity. Bay Area, well, south of the Bay Area here along the plate boundary, that's going to be the San Andreas Fault, lighten up slightly. A look at the 2.5 map and above does show some movement today near La Quinta area, 3.4. That is on the San Jacinto Fault zone, just off the San Andreas Fault. We also did see some earthquake activity yesterday up here outside the Barstow region, 2.6. So somewhat elevated activity out here today. Quite a bit of microquake movement up and down the state and along the plate boundary. Here's this one outside the Romas area, 1.6 along the San Andreas Fault here. This is going to be the Santa Cruz Mountains section. As far as Northern California goes, aside from some movement up here across the Clear Lake Volcanic Field, and also this little area up here, I should say down here, this area has seen some swarming here in the past couple weeks. In a little odd area. This has nothing to do with the Clear Lake, or at least the Calpine hydrothermal operations and it is a significant ways away from the Clear Lake volcanic field far as this separate swarm goes. This area up here, yeah, that's a massive amount of earthquake activity, but these are associated with the Calpine hydrothermal operations. There's many facilities up here that utilize raw sewage to create energy. There's a whole process involved by injecting it below. Check it out if you want. I'm not going to go into that again. We cover it quite a bit. But this little activity is of interest here because it's away from that region, and I'm not for sure which fault system this has struck on, but there's a couple different smaller faults that run here north of St. Helena area. It looks like that's starting to kick back up here today with a 2.6 from yesterday and a couple other ones early this morning. All right, the rest of the area here, Mount St. Helens, still seeing some earthquake activity. Now, Timothy here managed to get one of the geologists up there to put up a beautiful shot there of Mount St. Helens in the Washington area. Looks like under clear skies. Beautiful. Couple jet trails up there, it looks like. That's going to be these features. That does block out the sun on occasion, especially if you get a whole bunch of them. It looks like there's quite a few of those chemtrails up there. So at least looking at this view, it looks pretty calm, right? But we appreciate Timothy there getting a hold of this geologist, and appreciate the geologist there for setting up a temporary webcam there at Mount St. Helens, because the one that was up there is a couple years old. At least the image shot is. This is updating, I think every 5 minutes or so. Maybe, I don't know exactly the time frame, but there's a current shot of Mount St. Helens, and things looking calm for now as far as activity goes. But there's definitely been quite a bit of earthquake activity here in the Mount St. Helens area in the past, I'd say, 2 months. This is only half of the activity that we've seen here at Mount St. Helens in recent times, at least in the past couple months, that is. And 191 earthquakes within this area, Mount St. Helens, Volcano there in Washington. It's been confined mostly up here to the summit area. Now, I don't think it has, I haven't really seen any elevated volcanic activity in terms of volcanic gases and whatnot. Let me go over there and check that out today. It's been a couple days since we've checked the gas emissions out, but we'll double check that here. Stand by for a second while I get this pulled up. Mount St. Helens, which is still currently green and normal. Let's see what we have. All right, the gas emissions is going to be this little cloud right here on the map, and this gives you a good indicator of what's going on. There's carbon dioxide, which looks neutral. Not a whole lot of elevated activity. Sulfur dioxide, this is going to be a long trend chart showing fairly stable conditions. Let's see here. Past month of hydrogen sulfide. Sulfur dioxide, these are all volcanic gases, right? There's really no elevated activity compared to what we've seen back in September, around the 5th of September. It's not showing it on here, but there was actually a pretty good spike of activity in the sulfur dioxide emissions chart right about the same time that the earthquake activity stirred up here, this earthquake swarm. But we're really not seeing, even with this continued earthquake swarm ongoing, we're really not seeing any elevated volcanic gas emissions going on, aside from that one little spike that kicked up back in September, first week of September. So we'll continue to watch that. Either way, the earthquake activity has been ongoing, and, it's a lot of activity, definitely a lot of activity that's been taking place here. And I'm going to double check, see what we got for activity in the past couple months here. We're going to go 08, and that should cover the activity back in September, obviously, for Mount St. Helens. Oops, don't want to draw right there. Let's redo that. Come on. How do I redraw that? There we go. I want to go basically right about here, just at the summit region. show you guys how many earthquakes have struck out here and get a little bit more of a accurate tally in terms of the earthquake multitudes here. So we got 286 earthquakes since this swarm has kicked up. Now, to me, I would say that's definitely above background levels, but I can't seem to find anyone, at least geologists, seismologists, scientists, that think that this is just normal. They tend to think that it's just normal that earthquake activity like this kicks up here at Mount St. Helens all the time. But I don't recall the last time we've seen a pretty good earthquake swarm like this and not focus on what could be causing that, because 200 wasn't that at 286? There we go. That includes a couple over here outside the Mount St. Helens area. So if you want to be, 100% factual, 278 being listed, and that's what they're stating here as far as earthquake activity goes at Mount St. Helens. Now, this is nothing big. There was a 2.4 back in, looks like August, within this mix here. And after that, there's just, all of these are small microquakes, but still it's somewhat elevated activity here at the Mount St. Helens area, but without any volcanic signs as far as elevated gas emissions or GPS uplift. The GPS stations out here still show fairly neutral measurements out here. I'm not really seeing anything elevated in terms of uptick. Now that would be obviously visible here across the vertical displacement graph, which is going to be down here. This is the up in mm. There's just been that overall downtrend with seasonal uptrends, but the overall pattern here shows deflation long term since 2018 or so. A little spike of some activity back in 2021, it looks like, with some plate adjustment. Looks like that's what's going on here. That's got some northward movement along with some uptick slightly. But, it looks like we're coming into that seasonal pattern here where we will start to see some gradual uplift. Now, whether that has to do with the earthquake activity, I don't know. During the past uplift seasonal events, I don't recall seeing all this earthquake activity. But we'll continue to watch that, right? And report back on anything if it changes. But again, I do appreciate them putting up a webcam out here to look at this beautiful live view of Mount St. Helens, because I can't seem to find a whole lot of views there of the Mount St. Helens area, and this one will work. Again, thank you, Timothy, for getting a hold of that individual that put it up. All right, so aside from that, still seeing some earthquake activity today there around Mount St. Helens. Yellowstone National Park, not a whole lot going on here. Looks pretty clear. Let's go ahead and recheck that, affirm, make sure conditions are quiet. And to me, it looks like conditions are quiet, remaining quiet here across the area of Yellowstone National Park. This is today's data. Not a whole lot of earthquake activity. One little spike here, but generally that's probably not even going to be looked at by the seismologists. All right, what do we got for worldwide activity? Hawaii's been stirring up as well, right? A little bit of volcano activity here across Kilauea. Although today looks a lot quieter, not a whole lot of earthquake activity stirring up here. A couple ones and some twos out there. The tilt meter. Now this, let me double check, make sure this is today's. Pretty certain. Yep. Tilt meter is going to be right here. Past 2 days. A little bit of inflation, followed up by some deflation last night. Followed up by inflation again today. The overall trend here still shows long-range inflation here. As you can see on this chart, which is 30 days of data on this graph. But we're not quite, even with today's inflation, we're getting close, though. We're getting close to that all-time high inflation that kicked up on the 24th or so. That was the peak of this inflation activity. We'll continue to watch that, though, and see if this continues to go upward in this direction. If I could draw an imaginary line. That's the other thing I got to get. Need some type of, what are they called? Like sketch pad or something here on my end to where I can draw something on the map and then just one click of a button erase it. I still haven't found something that will work properly on my end. But got any suggestions? Let me know. Even if it costs money, I need to get me something like that. Can't remember the accurate word for it. But yeah. All right. Let's see what else we got here for activity. The latest information statement here. Let me go over and read this from the USGS and the HVO. Kilauea daily update. The volcano is not erupting. It's basically the same message that it has been. They talk about the Kilauea remaining at high levels of inflation and eruptive activity is possible in the coming weeks or months. No unusual activity has been noted across any of the rift zones for now. All right, let's get back here. Worldwide activity. Still pretty active out here across the western areas of the Pacific Plate, like we seen last night. In fact, I think a lot of these are from yesterday. A lot of activity around the Filipino Plate, around the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench up here as well. The latest one, though, shows a 4.5, 76 kilometers deep here into the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. So some slight adjustment going on here across this area. No large-scale movement yet, but continue to watch that. Down in New Zealand, seen a 3.8 yesterday. Doesn't look like we've seen too much activity today, although the globe's shown a 3.4 along this plate boundary here, South Island. So on that note, let's double check and see what the GeoNet servers are showing us for today's activity. There's that, still they're reporting it at 4.2 outside the Wellington area on that map. 3-pointer there from yesterday. I'm not seeing the one South Island showing up here. Let me see if it is. That's going to be, let's see, a couple smaller quakes throughout the last 24 hours here. But these are going to be generally unfelt, unnoticed earthquake activity. And yeah, there's quite a few of them, but that's very typical there along that plate boundary. Earthquake drums will probably give us a good indicator down south of that earthquake. Maybe right here, it looks like. It's showing up about the strongest around the Paps area. It looks like South Island for that earthquake on the Earthquake 3D globe here, that 3.4. Nothing big. In fact, most of the charts here look pretty quiet across New Zealand for now. All right, shooting across further west, there's that one earthquake out here along this Owen fracture zone, right around this triple point area of the plates. That earthquake coming in as a 4.3 from last night. And a little bit of activity in Morocco as well last night, coming in for a 4.3. See what the Earthquake 3D globe here has for this general area. One earthquake off the tip, southwestern area of Australia, 2.9. Clustering going on once again here across the area of the Indonesia Islands region. Mediterranean area here, Turkey westward, still seeing some activity. It looks like some 4s out there today and a couple other smaller quakes. Iceland getting in on the mix as well with some earthquake activity out there, whether it's volcanic or plate stress. I think it's right now stress out there in the plates, divergent boundary zones. Also the South Sandwich Islands activity. This looks like a couple 5s coming in earlier this morning into the South Sandwich Trench here, 35 kilometers deep into this area. So we'll keep an eye on, right now it looks like the western areas here, or the eastern areas of the Pacific Plate, the west coast of the states, is showing some activity up and down the board. Last time we seen this, we did see a little bit of further movement, a little bit larger scale than these microquakes across the Bay Area and also inland away from the plate boundary. So we'll keep an eye on that when this shows activity here on a broad scale up in the Gulf of Alaska down to the southern edge of the San Andreas Fault. That tends to put a little bit of strain out here. We'll keep an eye on that area of the west coast. Let's see here, space weather activity. Anything stirring up out here today? Looks fairly calm once again, although 70% chance for a C flare, M flare at 25, X flare around 5%. Why? Let's see. Why is it elevated today? Well, there we go. Look at that. See that growth right here within the sunspot compared to last night? Look at that. 3474 was not as complex. Same with up here, 3473. Looks like these two regions have amplified overnight. This region right down here definitely has a possibility of seeing some M-flare activity with these close proximity magnetic cores here, magnetic structure within the core. Continue to watch that area as it is definitely right at Earth, pointing right at Earth right now. Also, this regional sunspot showing a little bit of growth as well. So we'll continue to watch that. That's the elevated threat level there, 70% chance for C-flare, M-flare at 25. And surprisingly, a 5% chance for X-flare, but if it continues to grow, I can see that happening. Far as the 3-day geomagnetic forecast goes, I know we were expecting some high-speed solar wind stream here from that coronal hole that's been facing us, had been facing us a couple days ago. I'm guessing maybe this was it. We'll have to watch for that. Let me see what we got here for the detailed forecast. Yeah, it looks like not really expecting too much from that. I think we've seen a little bit of a aurora uptick, but nothing like they were claiming. But either way, possibly tonight could see this kick up around the G1 class storm category. Right now, it doesn't look like it though, but we'll keep an eye on this area. The polar regions for some uptick, unless that coronal hole activity just missed us. I don't know. It's a little weird. All right, folks, let's see what else we got here. Yeah, 3474 harbors a beta gamma class magnetic structure, and that is going to be the one that is currently facing us, 3474. Last night's image and today's image definitely shows a little bit more complexity within that region. Keep an eye on that. Storm Prediction Center today, not a whole lot going on. No thunderstorms forecast. Look at that. Not a whole lot of activity over the next couple days either. So some quiet conditions prevailing. Far as long-term weather models here, we're going to check out the GEPS model. High pressure building out here across the west coast. Colder air coming down into the areas around the Great Lakes. Watch as we put this into motion for the rest of the week. Well, you guys are looking at some chilly temperatures there for Halloween night and first part of November. Out here across the west coast, well, keeping an eye on things. We do have, a little bit of precipitation coming in. Let me show you guys a total accumulated precipitation map. Most of this rainfall is going to be shooting into the Pacific Northwest, bringing with it quite a bit of rain there, it looks like, over the next week or so. Northern California's in there as well. Not quite as hunky-dory as this one up here. That's looks pretty wet here. But at least we're getting a little bit of rain here into the Sacramento Valley. Some darker green areas, maybe up to half an inch or so of precipitation. And shooting off towards the middle of November, that fills in slightly. So it looks like maybe the storm track will be open out here across the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. And that's just the rainfall here over the next couple model runs here. Next 2 weeks. We'll continue to watch that, though, and report back on any major changes going on. All right, folks, current live seismograph stations look pretty calm out here. Not a whole lot of elevated activity at the moment, but we'll continue to watch that and report back on anything that may change out here. Have yourself a good Monday. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later on this evening. Take care, folks.